And we are rolling with another episode of Industry Interviews. I am your host and your good buddy, Dan Brown Jr., creative director and composer of CrimeSonics. And today I
Woohoo.
am joined by founder of TagTeam Analysis, where human elements meet technology, Marina Garza. How you doing, Marina?
I'm doing really well.
I am too excited to jump into everything you are doing and what your company is doing, but I've done a little cyber stalking because that's what we do. And I want to talk about trumpet. I see you play trumpet.
I do. Yes, been playing since I was 11, so it's one of those habits I couldn't quit. Just had to keep doing it.
Yeah, and I saw some stuff on Facebook where it even looks like you're doing a little DJ work, huh?
I was doing some DJ work for a number of years with a couple of friends of mine, but now that I'm doing tag team, it's like pretty much overwhelmed everything else that I do. So I kind of put that on the back burner for now.
How cool is that? Do you ever, I know there's a lot of DJs where they'll play live instruments over top of the beats and things. Do you ever do the
I've,
trumpet with the,
I've done that a few times. I did a few parties that were kind of different. Like I did a marijuana policy project party
yeah,
in San Francisco, and it was it was theme oriented. It was based on prohibition. That was obviously back before it was legal.
yeah.
So I did a whole set of nothing but like roaring 20s style music, jazz. So
Vaudeville, burlesque kind of.
oh yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it was fun.
Oh, I love that sound. That is a wonderful sound. I actually had the chance to I was going to score an indie film maybe 4 or 5 years ago that was all about a vaudeville kind of burlesque variety show in New Orleans, Nolens.
Nice.
And the project just never came to fruition, but I was really looking forward because they wanted um, it was like vaudeville trumpet, muted trumpet, growly kind of trumpet with EDM beats and things. So would have been cool. Would have been cool. It
Yeah.
didn't happen. But the whole
Well,
project, I don't think ever came to fruition. So, um,
Well, that's the wonderful thing about technology is how you can mix all of the new elements of music with the old elements,
yeah,
and how we all just, we're all influenced by decades and eras of music. Yeah.
yeah, I love it. And real quick, just because I'm curious, where are you from? Are you California born and raised, or?
Nope, I'm a transplant like pretty much everybody.
Yeah, me
Uh,
too.
I grew up in Texas,
I love it.
grew up in San Antonio,
Yeah.
and I was the product of the marching band, scenario of playing for the football games and all of that in high school. And then I went to Baylor University for my undergraduate um, degree in music education, and also was in marching band. And then did my master's in jazz studies at North Texas, where that's kind of when I was really obsessed with jazz and learning how to play and improvise and do all of that stuff. So I did that, and from there I came here. I worked on a cruise ship for about 6 months, saved some money, and then I moved up to the Bay Area. I've been here since 1998. So
Wow.
yeah, like to
So
say I'm a native now.
yeah, San Antonio, is that the city with the hustling, bustling river walk?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I have been there. What a great city. The Alamo, yeah.
Yep, the
Right.
Alamo. And I haven't been there in it's been quite a while, but back in the early 90s, there was a pretty good music scene, lots of different styles of music and very blues heavy, I mean,
Yeah.
yes.
How cool is that? Oh, that's just awesome. And then I'm curious now about the cruise ship, like performing trumpeter on the cruise ship.
Did that for 6 straight months.
Wow. Seasick at all or no?
Yes, probably the first month was not fun, no. And then, like having to deal with storms and, being up and down 12-foot waves for like a
Oh,
whole day. Yeah, that was not fun. But then, you get your sea legs, and then in a couple of months later, you get used to it and acclimated to it. And then before you know it, you have to leave.
uh,
Contract's up, you got to go.
just a few months ago, I took my son camping, and we rented a small boat on a small lake, and we figured out pretty swiftly that we could do donuts and jump waves in this boat. And we had a blast until I got off that boat later in the afternoon. And I tell you what, I was a mess for 3 days. Taking
Yeah.
Dramamine, room was spinning. It was not good.
Yeah, your equilibrium changes. It's
Yeah.
pretty drastic. It's not fun, but you get used to it. And what they say is, it never leaves you. So if you get
Uh,
on a ship again and you get, I mean, I love to windsurf, so I
oh,
love
oh.
being on the water. So I used to sail a lot when I was a kid, so I don't think I have that much of an issue, but I know a lot of people do.
Yeah. And are you here in LA? Or are you in San Francisco?
I'm up in Oakland.
Oakland, absolutely. Yeah. We know my wife and I, uh, we travel to San Francisco about 3 times a year. We love it up there.
Yeah, it's nice. The weather is nice. It doesn't get as hot as LA. It's kind of cold in the summertime. San
Mhm.
Francisco is really cold. Oakland is a much better, I think it's a much better climate. We don't get the fog as much. It stays, sunny and pretty warm throughout the day. And right now we're having just beautiful weather. It's in the 70s.
Oh yeah.
Can't complain.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful area. I think at some point we will probably make the move from LA to San Fran and just probably stay there because it's nice.
Where are you again? You in LA?
Uh, yeah, we're in LA and I'm up in the Conejo Valley outside of the city. It's right up the 101. So it's very where we live, it's very neighborhood. It's doesn't even feel like we're in Los Angeles. And depending on the time of day, it can take anywhere from an hour or so to 3 or 4 to get into the city. It's too many people. Too many people.
Yeah.
Hey, so tell me about Tag Team Analysis. I am let's pretend I don't know anything about anything. The reason why we're doing these podcasts is to create a resource for, maybe people who are new to this industry of production music and all the stuff that we do. So can you just give me the quick overview, telescope view of what it is that you guys do?
Sure. So we are a descriptive tagging service. So what we do is we actually do all of the descriptive metadata for a track or for a song. So in other words, we listen to certain elements and tag the track. So we listen and we describe the song based on its genre and subgenre. We give a track or a song a descriptive uh, sentence editorial per track. We do mood keywording. We do music industry usage keywording, which is it's if you're going to be someone who wants to get your music into TV and film, one of the biggest things about keywording music for this industry is having really good usage tags or industry tags, like music for tags. We tag instrumentation, and we do sound alikes. And we've been doing this for the last 10 years in the industry. And as we've progressed, it seems like it's more and more of, it's more in demand. It's more important to have these additional fields for searching on a track or for music. So that's what we've been doing the last 10 years, it seems like. Yeah.
You threw out a term that may be new to someone. So when you said the term metadata, what is that exactly? What is metadata?
Metadata, basically, for what we provide are just the keywords. It's keywording elements that really describe your song, describe your track, describe specifically on a granular level what the song is about, or what how the song is, what the moods are, what the texture of a song is, if it's smooth, if it's gritty. It's using all these keywords. So when someone is looking for a song or trying to find a track, they might want something that's gritty or edgy or upbeat. So all of those described descriptors are what we call metadata that we put like on a spreadsheet in a database. So your music can be found if you're working with like an e-commerce site, like I don't know if you've heard of Source Audio or Harvest Media, or anywhere that you're trying to submit your music for TV and film. You're going to have to follow some parameters of how to get your music searched for, and some of that is actual descriptive keywording. So that's really metadata, is descriptive keywording in a nutshell.
So I have a question. A few years ago, I wrote a bunch of uh, very on the nose Delta style blues, rocky blues, and send it to a publisher. They love the stuff. They publish the stuff. And like a few years later, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go out to their library, search around, see if I can find those tracks. Found them, and then I saw this list of keywords. And one of the keywords was beer, and another one was barbecue, and another one was cars, and another one was diners. So why in the world would they use those kind of terms for my blues songs?
Well, that's a really good that's a really good commentary on your actual track. Beer, cars, diner. Those
Mhm.
are all what we call industry usage keywords. Those are all like words that you can visualize your music on a film spot. How would we use your song? Oh, we could use it in a beer commercial, or maybe we can, it's something that we could hear in the background of like a diner, like maybe a scene from Tarantino's, Pulp Fiction diner where there's that music in the background. And just like it's all those words that kind of elicit the feel of where you might be in a film spot, that kind of gives it that kind of either edge, or it gives it that kind of nostalgic sense about a, a certain spot in a film.
It's interesting that you say that, because predominantly the usage of those tracks ended up on Food Network, on barbecue shows and
Oh,
diner shows and food shows, right? So it's very, very interesting.
exactly.
So yeah, it's the whole world of metadata seems daunting, and it seems like a lot of work. Can you speak to that?
It is definitely a tedious type of work. I think for artists and for people who actually are library owners, they wear so many different hats in their careers, that this is one of those segments that I think a lot of times gets neglected, because it really needs a lot of intense understanding and intense listening, um, to actually really present your music with certain really effective keywords. So I think, that's kind of where I come in, and I think my background kind of elicits this idea of like being able to sit and listen to music for a long period of time. And I worked for Pandora for 2 years back in the early 2000s, when they were kind of just not even public. They were just very, very small, but I was part of the music genome, and I was an analyst. So we did a lot of listening on a granular level, and it was something that for me, I just really love it. I really enjoy listening to music on a really descript level. So I think that's kind of why it has been easy for me to get from that transition into doing you know production music, style music right at this point. But yeah, I mean, it takes a real discerning factor to get through like a certain amount of songs in a day, to listen um, intensely to certain elements of a song.
What do you find, or do you find that maybe some of the pitfalls or mistakes people make when, or maybe even just when they make when they're doing metadata, or the whole understanding of the importance of metadata?
Well, I would say, like, if I'm going to do it like specifically when you're listening, I could say a pitfall that is really easy to get into is to over tag or to overthink how you're going to tag a song, um, especially instrumentation. So like, there's always a field that's for featured instruments. Here's a really good way of getting into a pitfall. When you're listening to a track that maybe is orchestral, or maybe it's a band, but it's like you don't always want to tag every single instrument that is within the track. You want to just pull out all of the the instrumentation that is emphasized, like which instrument carries the melodic content, or which instrument is heavy in the mix. Is it drum heavy? Is it like, is it a lot of guitar work, or is it more string based? So it's in that sense, I'd say a lot of times over tagging can be a pitfall. uh,
What happens? What I'm sitting here thinking about when we do the deliverables at CrimeSonics. We have our, our full mix, and then we have all of these stems. and the full mix may have 10, 20, 30 instruments in it. But
Mhm.
some of these stems, they don't have the guitar now. They don't have the vocal now. So how do you take into account all those individual stems?
Well, I mean, we have a system on how we handle alt mixes and stems, and how we handle the main tracks. And so, what you want to do, you really want to keep, in a way, because you're dealing with stems, it's still part of the song. So you want to keep certain elements. Um, you want to keep them all uniform to the main track. But the things you want to do is take out or nuance the parts that make the stem or make the alt mix. And what we do is we change, like we'll change the description, because that's totally different. If it's a stem, if it's a bass stem, we don't want the same description that you would put on a main track. We would want something specific to it being a bass, and maybe the texture of the bass. And then we're also going to want to adjust the featured instrument section as well. So there's certain things that you want to do and certain things that you don't want to do. So things that you want to do is really adjust the differences and nuances between an alt mix or stem and the main track. But you also want to keep some of those keywords, so that way when someone is searching for that main track, they're also going to get all of the other parts of that particular track that are stems and alt mixes too. I mean, it's the same with albums. I like to try to keep the same understanding of keywords within an album. That way, if someone's doing a search for something, you're not just going to get one track from that album, but you'll get many tracks from that album that have all of the same, connecting qualities.
Who is, I'm just sitting here thinking, what if what if I was a solo artist and maybe I had 2 or 3 tracks, or maybe even 2 or 3 albums I've done, maybe like 20 tracks, 30 tracks. Is that the um, kind of client you're looking for, or should who are you looking to help? That's the question I guess I'm trying to ask.
We want to help as many people that need it. We want to help all levels of clients, from indie artists to composers to large libraries that have issues with needing retags and needing a lot of different organization in their library. Yeah, so I mean, like we have a lot of indie artists that come to us that are trying to get their music set up and ready to put on some of these e-commerce sites, or to use, if they're working with sub publishers, to deal with the descriptive end. And it is really, I think it's really important to use. I think it makes a big difference to have someone else listen to your music than yourself, because I think someone who actually, you know, creates the music and produces the music has a whole different idea and understanding of how they see their music, compared to someone who's probably more discerning, and someone who's more like objective to it.
You threw out another term when you said a library that needs retags. What would a retag be?
Or cleanups, like there's we're at this we're working with some libraries that are pretty big that acquire other libraries,
Right.
and so they need a system that's going to work for all the music. So what happens is they'll have maybe 3 or 4 different libraries, that are like tagged with totally different keywords, and so they need to find a way of mapping all those keywords to maybe their keyword bank or their taxonomy. So there's a lot of organization. The more music you have, the more you need to get organized with it. So I would suggest for people that are just starting out, that maybe have a couple of albums, it's really, really good to get in a good process of having a taxonomy or keyword schema that works for your library, that works for your style of music that you're presenting, and follow that strategic, accurate keyword guide, and keep like your a bank of moods that you use, a bank of styles that you use. And that way, when you tag your music, or if you have someone else tagging your music, that you will have a consistent, accurate set of metadata as you go, and as you continue to grow your library.
It's all fascinating to me. So let's pretend for a second I happen to own a library and we happen to need a bunch of help, right? What would the process be? Could you walk me through, as a library owner, what does that look like? How do we start the process?
Well, the first thing that we would do is we would ask you we do a consult. We would ask you to give us, a very small cross section of what your library is. So like if you would submit to us somewhere between 10 and 20 tracks that we would tag it. We would show you we call it a taxonomy or a schema. We would show you our taxonomy, the keywords that we use, and how we would approach tagging your music. So, and then we would show you how we would tag it. We'd show you the fields that we use. And the tagging fields that we use, which are description, track mood, track styles, track instrumentation, those things. And we would show you what our process is as we tag. We would just kind of present to you the results of our tagging your tracks.
Yeah, it sounds great. I'm actually, as we're chatting, I have your website up on another screen here, and seeing this Tune Tagger. What is Tune Tagger all about?
So that is it's our tagging platform that we developed about 3 years ago. We built, and it's online based, so it's a subscription based that we offer clients who would like to tag their music in-house. It is set up with our keyword taxonomy, so everything that we've used, TagTeam has used for the last 10 years, is literally on there. However, it's customizable. So if you're a library that's like, yeah, I need this and this, and it's not in there, the functionality is very user-friendly on the platform. You can add keywords, you can take keywords out. You can pretty much customize it the way you need it for your library. So we're just kind of rolling it out beta right now. We have a couple of clients that are using it, which is really good because we're actually customizing it for each client right now and finding what are all of the factors that each library is having the same issues. So that way we know, okay, this is probably a good component to have in here, and this and this. So we're realizing that a lot of our clients deal with different libraries, or they're like submitting their music to different sub-publishers, and they all have different requirements. So for example, if you're submitting your music to Source Audio, or if you're submitting your music to Harvest Media or WCPM, they all have different standards of how your metadata gets put into a spreadsheet. So what we have on our platform are 3 different or 4 different scenarios, and where you can actually download your CSV after you've tagged for any of those formats, so that it comes out all in any format that you need it.
That's wonderful. So, and just to make sure I'm clear, so we use Harvest, and you're saying if I went into Tune Tagger and I had my subscription and we had it customized specifically to our library, I could then print out the document that I could then use their metadata validator software, and it would validate and ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
How
And
cool is that?
we've also just recently added some inputs where you can actually put all your PRO information,
Wow.
all of your ID, track ID information, and all of that, and any of your composer information. You can already add all of that to it, so that way you don't have to do 2 different things on 2 different spreadsheets and do copy pasting. It'll just all come out in one spreadsheet for you.
Not to get too off topic, but how did you get into this? Like, what made you decide, you know what, trumpet DJ, that's all good, I'm going to do a bunch of metadata? How did you decide this?
Well, one of my incentives was the fact that I could make my own hours and work at home.
I love that. Yeah.
And I think I got really spoiled when I worked at Pandora, because that was one of the things that I really loved about that job. Well, first was that, initially that we would go to an office and we would all work together and we would listen to music, and it was like sitting at a computer and like having a tube of warm cream coming into your mouth as you work. It was a sweet job. And so I think I wanted to recreate what I had there. I think back in 2008, when the big economic crash happened, a lot of us got laid off. And so I was just trying to recreate myself, to have the same kind of scenario I had when I worked there.
Yeah, that is very interesting. It's being an at-home composer, the studio here is just behind our house. It's one property but 2 separate buildings, and it's been so long since I've had a commute. I really do feel for those who have the commute right now.
Right.
Yeah, carve
Yeah,
out that life that you want. I mean, you can, right? Don't give up. Go after it. You know what I mean?
exactly, exactly. I always say if there's a will, there's a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just don't stop, right? Just don't quit.
Nope. There's always so many different avenues too. I mean, everything changes. Everything.
Yeah.
And as a musician, your life is not going to be the same from day one to day 500, or from 1 year to the next, or from 5 years to 10 years. Everything changes, and as a musician, you grow and you change into different avenues. You don't stay in one place all the time. Um,
Yeah, I agree. And I think and I'm just speaking generally about just production music and just our industry, right? Just being flexible and interested and being willing to adapt. You don't have to, I don't adopt to the you have to say yes to everything. You don't have to say yes to everything. Look, I don't say yes to everything. I say no to most things now. But if you have a vibe, just chill out, just kind of go with the flow. I mean, I think anyone could carve out a solid and great career in this industry if they just stick it out,
yeah.
right? I
And
do. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think, like, for me too, a lot of research. Just research your industry, research what's going on. If
Oh,
you're so involved with music and you love music, research different styles of music. And you know, people have it so much easier now because of YouTube. You can find, and all music is a great resource to find different artists and related artists from who you like and who your influences are.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking at, you have a lot of really impressive clients here, and I keep seeing these testimonials come up. And one of these testimonials that come up is a good friend of mine, Alan Lazar, La
Yeah.
Lela Music.
Yeah.
And so it makes me think, how did you and I connect exactly? Was it
Uh,
was it through Alan, or how did you find me?
How did I find you? Another resource that I have is Music Library Report,
Oh, I love
and
it.
I always check them out, and because they always bring out like the newer libraries that come up the pike, and yours was one that's on there, so that's why I reached out to you.
How cool is that? I'm so glad you did, because this is just it's so fascinating. And over the years, I know, because I've had the conversations myself, people are very confused about metadata. And it's almost one of those topics where you just want to kind of smile and nod and you're like, oh, yeah, yeah, we're hip to that. We know what we're doing. But I don't think a lot of people are so hip to what's going on, right? So,
Yeah.
so that brings me to my next question, which is, what haven't I asked you, like, about this industry? What about metadata should, let's say, like, up and coming composers, up and coming libraries, new transplants into our industry, what do they need to know about this that I haven't asked already?
Well, I would have to say finding like a really good way of organizing your tracks and a good system that you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel as you do it.
Hmm.
Because there's so many components to not just the descriptive metadata, but all of the other stuff that makes it tedious and hard, at like getting all of your PRO information. Also like formatting stuff, making sure that that you are putting all of your formatting your metadata with all of the different publisher requirements, and to find a system where you can do it easily and quickly so you don't have to spend a lot of time in a day doing that.
Let
I
me ask
think,
you, no, no, sorry to interrupt, but I was going to ask you specifically that about time. How long does it take to properly do the metadata for a track?
well, at this point in time, the way we do it, and because now that we have this platform that we're working on, it's really helped our workflow. I would say we maybe on average, I mean, if I'm doing the full tagging of a song, I'd say about a minute.
Oh, you were cruising.
Yeah, because we have a lot of things now, since we've been doing it so long. We've done a lot of automation on our platform,
Oh, well.
so if there's certain things, there's certain elements that come up a lot based on the subgenre of a song. So we find that if we already have the preset tags there, then all we have to do is go in and edit it. So like take out the things that don't make sense, maybe add a few things here and there, but like the structure is there.
And I think that's the value of your company, right? You have, the X amount of years of experience, you have the tune tagger, you have your systems in place. You guys can knock out a track in 60 seconds. But what do you think it takes on average for someone who's never done this and is scouring the internet to how do I do metadata? How long does it take them to do a track? Right.
It's hard to say because you have to start with some structure. It's not an easy thing to do if you don't have a structure. And what I mean by that is to have already a keyword schema or a taxonomy that you're following, and also have a system on how to pull tags out. And those are all of the components that make something either go fast or go slow. And in what medium you're doing it. Are you typing everything in, which is like a disaster because you're going to eventually, if you're typing stuff onto an Excel itself, there's going to be a lot of, room for, errors for, just typing errors and word errors.
Yeah, the
So
human
it's
error.
like, yeah, having a structure, having a platform, having something that's already set you up. Some people use FileMaker Pro and they make a little template with all of their keywords, and then that way they just choose and pick and choose things. We've developed this platform that's web-based that makes it very easy. And I have a team of 3 other analysts. So when we have a big job, when we have a job of maybe 3,000 or 5,000 tracks, we have a strategy of how we tag. And it's not that each of us go through through a whole song and do all of the tagging fields. We, compartmentalize everything. So it's more like it's on a conveyor. It's like we're doing, what's the word I'm trying to say? Is it like if you were in a factory and you only did one thing. So like, for example, my one thing that I would do is just tag genres, subgenres, and music usage. And then my team members would just tag the moods and the featured instrumentation. So it's just like, they're just really focused on 1 or 2 attributes of listening to a song. So that way they're not bombarded with all of the different elements that they have to listen for. They're only listening to, a very focused part of the song. And that also helps, consistency and accuracy as well.
Well, I think anyone listening can already see and already hear the value of what you and your company offers. Especially I'm thinking too, like maybe larger libraries may do some of this or all of this in-house. But the majority of us, I think, are probably mid-sized libraries, right? And we need
Right.
help. Like we need like in a way, you guys become an extension of a library, like the metadata team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that's really cool. That's really exciting stuff.
Yeah. And I think it's a 5 to 7 business day turnaround. If it's a small job, we'll get it done, within a week. It's an easy way of submitting. You go onto our service page, you upload your tracks, however many tracks you want to submit. And just there's a pricing guide, and there's pricing buttons. You just, however many tracks you're going to submit, that's how much you pay for, and we get it back to you in about 3 to 5 days if it's a small job.
What do you consider a small job?
Under 100 tracks.
Yep. And then what I guess anything over like 1,000 maybe becomes big. What's a
I'd say anything over 500 tracks becomes mid-sized to, I mean, we can pretty much cover about 500 tracks in a week's time.
Yeah, you guys are the ninjas of metadata.
But I think we're coming from the human aspect. I mean, our foundation is human listening. And, I've talked to so many people whose their foundation is the exact opposite of us. They're more, music information retrieval kind of thing set up, where they're actually building models and algorithms based on, data that may not be something that is directly what we're involved in. Like we're directly involved in listening and directly involved in discerning texture and, feel. Um, some of the things that we're working on moving forward is some algorithmic models in our platform.
Do you mean metadata, like AI metadata tagging?
Right.
That's
Right.
interesting. Wow.
Yeah. But we're kind of doing that with what we have now. It takes a lot of data to really get really consistent models that are actually producing like really accurate tags. So we're kind of doing that right now, but we're at a very elemental level. So we're like right now, we've developed some algorithms that detect genre, but it's still part of the machine learning process. So it's not at a point where it's going to be accurate. It still has to be work with human discernment still. So, but we'd like to get to a level where we can have some machine learning and some algorithms that will just automatically tag genres and subgenres of a track. And eventually maybe be able to use some of our software for people or for clients that have huge amounts of tracks that need just either clean up, or they need to like have things basic understandings of genres and subgenres that they're actually presented in their libraries. And then hopefully moving from there, getting to all of the other fields that we've been doing for the last 7-8 years.
I'm just curious, when you say genre and subgenre, could you give me an example of that?
Yeah, so like rock would be a genre, and a subgenre would be like punk rock or surf rock or pop rock or indie rock, folk rock, anything that describes the type of rock song would be a subgenre. And the thing about it is, production music is always such hybrid forms. It's not so cut and dry. So I might have a song that is more, orchestral or score related, but has elements of maybe punk rock, or has elements of like drum and bass, or has other types of elements. They all kind of mix. So that is like a very, very tricky to actually, I think this is probably one of the things that's really hard to have an actual AI or algorithm that's going to be able to identify that in a track without it being a human ear.
Well, I actually love this topic because when we started CrimeSonics, it was the idea of criminal and investigatory programming, sounding music, right? Crime music. And it's very apparent to me, and I'm very aware of it because I've had these conversations where people think that crime music generally is just pulse driven electro underscore. And I love the subgenres, so cybercrime doesn't sound anything like Southern Justice, right?
Right.
And forensic science, won't sound anything like modern hybrid horror serial killer trailer score, right? And so,
Exactly.
right, so you have the genre of crime and then all those little subgenres. I love the minutia and like the laser beam focus that you have to really zero in on subgenres.
Right.
And when I play creative director every Friday with all of our composers, and I push people around a little bit, like, no, you're kind of leaning more forensic science on this track. I know you think it's cybercrime, but it's going this way. So it's very fun to do, and I'm glad you guys are fully aware of that and take it into consideration. How do people find you and your services and your social medias? Tell me all of that stuff.
Well, let's see. How are we doing it? See, right now, and this is actually, to be honest with you, one of my marketing ploys now is to start getting a monthly newsletter together.
Very cool.
So we're going to do that with, and in the monthly newsletter, we're going to be putting our blogs, and our blogs are always going to be about how to tag your music, types of music industry tags that people use for certain styles of music. We already have this in on our blog section, but like we want to keep adding to our blogs and adding to how you can tag your music better, or how you can have a better understanding of how your music can be used in the production music industry. So we want to continue to help, composers and indie artists out, kind of give them a bridge to being involved with how their music is actually being utilized in the industry. And we also just want to be there and provide our services. So at this time, that's kind of our marketing goal right now, is to get a newsletter out so everyone knows what we're doing, where we are. And then I'd really like to just keep in touch with my clients and see how things are going now that, it seems like right now, every industry is being, disrupted with COVID. So I'm just wondering how my clients are doing right now, how everyone's doing.
Yeah, and I'm seeing here TagTeamAnalysis.com. I see Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, looks like LinkedIn. Maybe I will also search around in any and every possible link I can find to point people to you. I will embed in the description of this video. It'll be down at the bottom of that.
Well, thank you very much. Also,
Absolutely.
I think we're on Music Library Report too. I think there's a little article on us on that as well.
I may have cut you off. Would you mind saying that last part again?
Sure. I believe we have a write-up on us on musiclibraryreport.com, MLR.com, I believe it is.
Perfect. All right. Marina, I think we've covered some stuff, right?
Yeah, we did. Covered a whole lot.
We made new friends here.
We did.
For everyone listening, we have never met. This is our first conversation, and it has been a very, very informative one. I'm very intrigued about tag team analysis now. I want to thank you, first and foremost, what you're doing for our industry. Totally dope. Love it. And for taking the time to come on here, chat with me, and in the hope that we are sharing valuable information, especially to people who are new to our industry, to be better equipped to succeed, because it just takes a little bit of effort and a little bit of knowledge, right?
Exactly.
All right, so it's tagteamanalysis.com. Reach out to Marina Garza, and hey, industry interviews, hanging out on our CrimeSonics YouTube channel. I really appreciate you, lady.
Thank you for having me on. I really do appreciate it.
All righty, and we're done.
Take care.